morning, students. Welcome to Math Lesson 101, April 21st. All right, today we are talking about rounding mixed numbers. So as we're rounding mixed numbers, we're looking to see that we have 7 3/4. We're looking to see where 7 3/4 falls between 7 and 8. And I look right about here. And so I know that 7 3/4 is larger than 7 1/2. And so therefore I'm going to round it to the 8. Okay? So I can look over here at my problem right here and it says where is 7 1/4 on the number line? 7 1/4 would be right here, okay? And so this is less than half. The 1 is closer to 0, means the number is smaller, and I would do 7 1/4 as 7, 7 3/4 as 8. All right, so I'm looking at the problem where it says JD had 6 2/5 yards of rope. I need to estimate the length of rope he had by rounding 6 2/5 to the nearest whole number. So when I'm looking at 6 2/5, I know that 2 isn't even half of 5, right? So the number 6 2/5 is less than 6 1/2. So I would look at that numerator and I would think that I need to round 6 2/5 to 6. All right. Now it says explain why 6 3/5 is closer to 7 than 6. Well, 6 3/5, 3 is over 3/5. 3 is over half of 5. I know that I need to round that then to the nearest whole number, which would make my 6 a 7, because 3 is over half of 5. I'm looking at this number line up here. This is the halfway point, right? And 3/5 would be over that, so you go to the next number. All right? Now, as we look at our next information, we see that that Kylie estimated the area of this rectangle as 45 square inches. So area is, as you can see, length times width, right? So she rounded 8 7/8 to 9, because 7 is definitely close to 8. That's almost a whole number right there anyway, isn't it? 8/8 would be 1 whole. 7/8 is very close to 8/8, so we would round that to the 9. Then we have 5 1/4. Well, 1 is close to 0, and 1/4 is less than 1/2, so we would round that to 5. So I would multiply 9 times 5, and I would get 45 square inches. Kylie's estimate was reasonable, wasn't it? All right, I'm looking at the next problem, and I am seeing that I need to estimate the perimeter of a rectangle. So when I estimate the perimeter of a rectangle, I need to round my numbers, correct? So I need to look at the 15 1/8, right? And the 10 3/4. And I need to round the 15 1/8 because the 1 is closer to 0, right? And 1/8 is less than half, so I leave the 15 as a 15. And then I round the 10 3/4 inches to 11 because 3 is close to 4, right? 4/4 would be 1 whole, so I know that I'm close to another whole. So and 3/4 is larger than half. So I would round that to 11 inches. So when I'm finding the perimeter, I am finding 2 lengths and 2 widths, right? So 2 times 15 is 30. And 2 times 11 is 22. I add those two together and I get 52 inches. All right, that is the beginning of rounding for your lesson. I'm going to move that out of the way now and do the lesson practice. We are already there. So here we go. Lesson practice. My first problem, I look at A and I go, oh, A is 3 and 2/3. 2 is close to 3. I know that 2/3 is larger than half. And so I know that that is going to become a 4. All right, let's go to B. 7 and 1/8. I know that 1 is closest to 0, and 1/8 is definitely, just as I had shown you in the lesson, where 7 and 1/8 is, 1/8 is definitely less than half. So that 7 is going to stay the same, right? I'm going to circle these. All right, I go down here to 6 and 3/5. We already had a 3/5, and we know that 3 is more than half of 5. And so we know that this would go up to 7. It would be rounded up to 7, correct? D, here we go. We have 6 and 1/4. We know that 1 is close to 0. A 1/4 is definitely less than half. We would round this to 7. All right, here we go. We have 12 and 5/6. Ooh, 5 is close to 6. We know this is definitely larger than half, because this 6/6 would be a whole number. So we're going to round that up to 13. Here we go. We have F, 25 and 3/10. Well, 5/10 would be half. And so we know that 3/10 is less than half, so I'm going to definitely say stay the same. We're going to let it be, let it go. We're going with 25. Now we need to estimate the product. I underlined product because what does that mean? That means we need to multiply. So my 9 and 4/5. Well, guess what? 4 is close to 5, which would be 5/5, would be a whole. I know I'm going to make that round up because that's more than half also. Then I'm coming over here to my 5 and 1/3. 1 is close to 0. I know this is definitely less than half. So I'm going to leave the 5 the same. So my product is going to be 10 times 5, which is 50. All right, next I need to estimate the sum, which means addition, right? Addition, this one means multiplication. All right, so I estimate the sum of 36 and 5/8. Guess what? 4/8 is half. So I know that 5/8 is larger than half. So I know that I'm going to round this up. Then 9/10 is very close to 10/10, which would be a whole. So I know I'm going to round this one up also. Then I need to add together 37 plus 11. Well, 7 plus 1 is 8, right? 3 plus 1 is 4. So my sum of 36 and 5/8 and 10 and 9/10 estimated is 48. All right, thank you. That was a short lesson today. Get on your written practice. Do the best you can do.